As the country begins to safely reopen and our economy recovers, is examining changes to tax policy the correct direction?
Um, we expect to examine changes to tax policy along with programs that will address some of the long-standing problems that have held down productivity and labor supply in the United States. We'll address infrastructure, risks from climate change, education, training.
Let me ask you, ma'am, Secretary, what impact would this action have on jobs and workers' wages?
I think a package that consists of investments in people, investments in infrastructure, will help to create good jobs in the American economy, and changes to this tax structure will help to pay for those programs.
Well, Secretary Yellen, what tends to be the impact, I guess I'd ask, on the American consumer, my constituents, when corporate taxes are raised? Do the costs usually tend to be passed down to them?
The impact of changes in corporate taxes have been studied by economists for a long time, and the impact of them on prices and on consumers are very unclear from existing studies.
Well,
Go
ahead, please.
We do need to raise revenues in a fair way to support the spending that this economy needs to be competitive and productive. And
so let me just say this, Secretary Yellen, if I could, I think we know that raising the corporate tax rate results in higher costs for small businesses, schools, and American households. Then why is this country begins to reopen and recover economically, would the Biden administration be proposing tax policy which would, in the end, hurt the American family and millions of struggling small businesses?
The Biden administration is not going to propose policies that hurt small businesses or Americans. The Biden administration is going to propose investments this economy has long needed to be competitive and productive, and support for...
With all due respect, ma'am, I would say this, certainly raising taxes on business and industry is going to affect consumers and households and American families in a very adverse way. Is this being proposed, these tax increases, to offset the costs of the recently enacted partisan stimulus package, ma'am?
No, the stimulus package, the American Rescue Plan, was not funded with any increases in taxes, but a longer-term plan that addresses critical needs of this economy probably would be accompanied by some revenue raisers. We're meeting at a hopeful moment for the economy, but still a daunting one. While we're seeing signs of recovery, we should be clear-eyed about the hole we're digging out of. The country is still down nearly 10 million jobs from its pre-pandemic peak. When Congress passed the CARES and Consolidated Appropriations Acts last year, it gave the government some powerful tools to address the crisis. But upon taking office, I worried they weren't powerful enough. After all, there were and still are some very deep pockets of pain in the data. 1 in 10 homeowners with a mortgage are behind on their payments, and almost 1 in 5 renters are behind on their rent. There are 22 million people who say they don't have enough food to eat. 1 in 10 adults are hungry in America. I looked at data like these and I worried that the COVID economy was going to keep hurting millions of people now and haunt them long after the health emergency was over. We know that when the foundations of someone's life fall apart, when they lose the roof over their head, or the ability to eat dinner every night, the pain can weigh on them for years. their earnings potential is permanently lowered, and I worried about this happening on a mass scale. That's why I advocated very hard for the American Rescue Plan, and why it's my first and my most enthusiastic message today. Thank you. With the passage of the rescue plan, I'm confident that people will reach the other side of this pandemic with the foundations of their lives intact. And I believe they'll be met there by a growing economy. In fact, I think we may see a return to full employment next year. Since taking office 2 months ago, we've been expediting relief to the areas of greatest need. For example, small businesses, and especially the smallest small businesses, which are disproportionately owned by women and people of color. The pandemic has hit these businesses hard. The Paycheck Protection Program was an early lifeline, but because of issues with the program's design, the first rounds often didn't reach the smallest sole proprietorships. We're addressing that now. We worked with SBA to tweak how the program was implemented. It's allowing the PPP to reach millions more micro businesses and entrepreneurs, especially in rural and low-income areas.